Okay, I'm going to start with this disclaimer. Even though we've seen from the last video that I put out that it seems to still make no difference in terms of YouTube's decision to demonetize videos. I'm a true crime channel. My videos are for educational purposes and for adults only. I don't do clickbait. I don't do live streams. My videos are pre-recorded videos where I talk about current cases. In this video, I'm talking about the Jennifer Soto case. For anyone who may have actually not heard of it, Jennifer Soto was a 13-year-old girl who went missing only a few days after her birthday in 2024. It was later discovered that her mother's ex-boyfriend was responsible. And now he's locked up, facing 2 trials, one because of images found on his phone, and one for Maddie's death. So again, thank you for all your support over the last week with all this ridiculousness from YouTube. Trust me, I've tried everything. Sometimes it just comes down to changing one word in your thumbnail. And they're random words like truth. I kid you not. One of the videos that I had to re-upload, all I did was change the thumbnail from Jen's Truth to Jen's Story, and bam, there you go, it went up. The problem is, of course, while some people manage to put out these thumbnails that really draw people in because they say all these things that make it sound interesting, my thumbnails are becoming more and more boring because I'm running out of words that I can use on my thumbnails without getting demonetized. Now, I know this is one of those things that goes in waves, and this will nick off and go and pester someone else really soon, but at the moment it just makes life a little bit challenging. So I am very appreciative of all your support in every way, the kind comments, the suggestions, the super thanks, the buy me a coffee, all those help me to just buckle up and come back for more. Now, I know a few people have questioned me over my intro song and said, well, is it that that's causing the demonetization? But I've used that song now since I began my channel. When I was covering Kylie's case, that was always my outro. With Maddie's case, it's now my outro and my intro. And when you look at the number of videos that I've done on Maddie's case, it's only a handful that get demonetized. So no, it's not the intro song. And also, in terms of that sort of thing, the guidelines are quite clear in terms of when it's in music, it's not considered in the same way. So yes, there is that word in the intro, but it doesn't make a difference. Now, just a quick apology for all my Patreon members. I know I'm behind with uploading documents. There's a number of documents that I said that I was going to put up there, and I seem to have just been so waylaid with trying to sort out these continual issues with demonetization that I haven't even thought about Patreon for the last week. I will do my best to get some more documents up for you within the next couple of days. I know it's frustrating when you're wanting to see documents and they're not there. In terms of the uninterrupted version of this interview, I did have it uploaded and unlisted, ready to make public. It was demonetized. I'm going to have to go through it and edit out certain words like I did with these ones where I'm actually doing my analysis, because I suspect that, particularly given that certain words come up in the first 20 minutes of the uninterrupted version, that's probably why that one is being demonetised. So that one will go up in the next couple of days once I've sorted out the issues with demonetisation with that one. But that said, being a straight through uninterrupted one, you know, those ones don't get as much views as my actual commentaries because everyone's got them on their channels, and a lot of people just can't stand listening to Jen non-stop without interruptions. So they get about half the views that my regular videos get. So if it gets demonetised, whatever. I am just going to say, I really appreciate the support everyone's given to me. I got one comment yesterday, and I'm going to address that comment directly because I don't think people quite understand what it means in terms of demonetisation. And it was someone saying, look, I enjoy your channel, but I find it tacky that you're talking about monetisation and demonetisation. But it is a cause of considerable anxiety for me. Some of these videos take up to 8 hours by the time I start working on them, to the point where I click go live or go public. And when they're demonetised, I looked at one of the Stephen Sterns ones, and because it was demonetised, I earned $1.50 for 8 hours work. Thankfully, I had the support of people giving me super thanks and buy me a coffee, because it was discouraging to see that. And for those people who are annoyed at me for discussing this issue, I'm putting it out there because I'm not the first true crime channel that this is happening to, and I won't be the last. This is something that needs to be out in the open. People need to know that true crime channels do struggle with genuine stuff like this from YouTube. And for those people who think I am overreacting, or who think it is tacky for me to be talking about it, put yourself in this position. Imagine you go to work for the day, you work for 8 hours, and then at the end of the day, just as you're knocking off, your boss says, look, by the way, thanks for today's work. Today was just as good as any other day, but just so you know, we're only paying you $1.50 for today. How would you feel? So I know I sound like I'm carrying on a bit, and this may cost me some subscribers, but I've always been honest on my channel. I've always been upfront, and I'm not going to change that. This is me. This is what you get. Yes, because I'm Australian, sometimes I do slip up and say words that are a little bit offensive. And yes, I do call a spade a spade. It's just the way I roll. It's just who I am, and I'm not going to change that because I want this channel to be genuine. I want you to be here because you like me for who I am, not because I'm putting on an act and you like the person in the act. Now, before I move on to the video, also a huge apology to members. It seems like I've neglected you a bit over the last couple of weeks. I'll do a little short video for you, hopefully later today. And now that I am a bit more comfortable with driving, hopefully over the weekend I may be able to get my sister to babysit the chihuahuas, and then I can take my big dog for a drive, and I'll do a driving video. Might head in a northerly direction this time and take you for a bit of a ride towards Echuca. Probably wouldn't go all that way because I'm still, a little bit sore in the shoulder. But yeah, I will try and do a driving video for my members this week. So I think that's probably more than enough yapping on. And it's probably time to jump into this video. So where we left it off yesterday, they had switched over and we had the Kissimmee detectives interviewing, or one Kissimmee detective, Detective Mark Morris, interviewing Jenn, with Detective Myra Tagler sitting in, and there was an interruption, so I decided that was a good spot to stop. Now, I haven't kept in the blank spot where nothing is happening, but there's about 5 to 10 minutes of Jenn just sitting there. Now, if you've ever found yourself in a situation where it feels like your world is crumbling because of something horrible that's going on, the worst time is when you're left alone to get in your head. At this point in time, Jenn's daughter is missing. She's been confronted with all these images, and the detectives have made it pretty clear there's only 2 people that could be in those images. And for that period of time that Jenn was sitting there, you don't hear any hint of sniffling or sobs or heavy breathing or anything like that. In fact, you will hear, when the detectives re-enter the room, Detective Tagler swears, which I had to cut out, obviously, and then they apologise, and it sounds to me that Jenn might have actually just fallen asleep. So let's start with that and listen to the rest of this interview.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I have a horrible potty mouth.
So we were talking about Stefan's relationship with her, and when you and your how do you and your daughter communicate? Like if you aren't in the same room,
How do we communicate?
like texts.
No, we speak to each other.
Okay, so you call each other on the phone.
If she's in the same room?
No. If you guys aren't in the same room.
Oh.
Like if she's out with her friends or you're at work or.
Call or text, but she's really bad about responding. She'll put her phone on silent or do not disturb.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes she'll respond, sometimes she won't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I had a mother like Jenn, I probably wouldn't answer my phone either. Now, I wonder, and this is not trying to give Jenn any kudos or anything, but we know that Jenn messaged Stefan on the Sunday night to say, make sure she's in bed now, or she needs to go to bed right now or something. And I wonder if it was because Maddie wouldn't respond to Jenn's texts normally. But it says something about their relationship, doesn't it? I know teenagers do that, but for Jenn to comment on it makes it sound like it's a pretty regular thing.
How do you and Stefan normally communicate?
Via Google Meet, which is the video, not FaceTime, but the video chat for Android.
Okay.
We'll video chat pretty much all day.
Okay.
There was a heck of a long pause there before she said Google Chat. So I'm wondering if there are other means that her and Stefan's were using to communicate as well. Now, here's an interesting thought. She says they communicated via Google Chat. Stefan reset his phone and he told Detective Tagler that no, he wasn't logged into Google. Now, I don't really get Android. I'm an iPhone person. I haven't had an Android in probably over 10 years. But someone did mention that with Androids, you have to actually be logged into Google anyway. I don't know if that's the truth, but he must have been logged into Google because we know that him and Jenn were continuing to communicate after he reset his phone. So just a random thought there, because he did tell Detective Tagler that he wasn't logged in.
Does and Stefan ever talk on the phone?
Yeah.
How do they do that? How do they normally communicate?
Video chat as well.
Okay.
But when she's on video chat, she's video chatting next to me, and we're all part of the conversation. They never go off on by themselves and have their own conversation. It's always all of us together.
Okay.
When someone offers up additional information like that, makes me raise my eyebrows. All he asked was how Stefan and Maddie communicated. The answer was simply needed to be, the same way, Google Chats. But she had to go that step further and explain that, but Maddie's never unsupervised. I'm always there. It's always a three-way chat. Which says to me that probably she's not always there. She's telling them what she thinks she should tell them. But I would say that, come on. Jenn likes to pretend that she is a responsible parent. But it's proven otherwise frequently.
Do they talk quite a bit? Do you know?
See, well, I'll say yes because we're all in the conversation together, and we stay on the phone for hours together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but that's all of us together.
Got it.
Wow, how many times can you say the one thing? They never go off by themselves. We're all part of the conversation. We're all in the conversation together. We stay on the phone for hours together. But it's all of us together. Huge red flag for me. My translation for that is that Jenn is just going way over the top with emphasising that Maddie is never alone with Stefan on these chats, which to me says that Maddie probably was quite frequently left alone with Stefan on these chats. Jenn probably took herself off to bed or something. She's probably just not interested because, that's Jenn. She's a bit of a spud. So from listening to John on Hidden True Crime, one thing that really stuck in my head was him talking about basically his obsession with Maddie being pretty much like a full-time job for Stefan. He was obsessed with her. He was thinking about his next time with her, that sort of thing. And when he was talking about that, I thought, well, okay, that's interesting, but apparently he's only been back to visit them so many times since he moved out. It wasn't like he wasn't even close by to be able to go there several times a week. We're told that he only went back 2 or 3 times after moving out. And my question to that was, well, how was he... I don't know how to say it in a nice way. How was he getting his fix? Because his obsession clearly was Maddie. And now we have Jenn just going over the top to emphasise that when Maddie and Stefan were on Google Chats, that it was all of them together. So I suspect that there were instances after Stefan moved out when him and Maddie probably were unsupervised on Google Chats, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was quite a frequent occurrence. I'll let you guys connect the dots with that. I don't think it's something that we really need to go further into.
Normal times of the day, I know kids sometimes are up late at night talking on the phone or anything like that. Do you, if Stefan's in Northport at home or with his parents, and you guys are here, and you guys are all talking, is it when normal people talk, or in the early in the morning, or
After school and before bedtime.
okay? Do you know if ever has conversations with Stefan outside of your presence? Like, do they talk on the phone?
It's possible, but if I'm at home, I would know.
Gotcha.
Because she's always in my bedroom. She's hanging out in my bedroom or in her space, but I can hear her in her bedroom, or I can hear her from my bedroom, so I would know.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly skip over the part where she says it's possible that they were communicating with each other when Jenn wasn't around, because based on what she said before, I would say it is highly probable. But did you catch what was said there? Her way of explaining it away was because either she's in Jenn's room or she's in her own fake room, but Jenn can hear her when she's in her own fake room. Just let that sink in for half a moment. And then I'll explain why that is a huge red flag, if you haven't already picked up on it. The majority of the images found on Stefan's phone, or a large number of them, I haven't gone through that side of it myself. I'm basically relying on what I'm being told, because that side of it is something that I can't go down. But it is my understanding that the bulk of the images are in Maddie's makeshift room. Jenn says in various interviews that she's always home with Maddie. She barely works. The only last time she worked, she was a substitute teacher, which meant that she was basically working the same hours that Maddie was at school, so she was home with Maddie all the time. Now she's saying that she can hear Maddie's makeshift bedroom from her bedroom. 1,700 images over a 2 to 4 year period. Many of those in Maddie's makeshift bedroom. Did that occur in silence?
Okay. Now this is kind of going to get into a sensitive subject, which I apologize. But there were images on his phone of them two being involved in a relationship. Now, has she ever disclosed to you or anything like that? If anything like that has happened between them? No? Okay.
I'm guessing that she was shaking her head there to say no. I can't, without seeing the body language, say if the reason she didn't verbalise it was because she was a little bit emotional, or because she didn't even want to whisper the answer because perhaps it was a lie. Like I mentioned in one of the earlier videos from this, I really don't believe that if Maddie had told Jenn anything, that Jenn would have acted on it. Based on her reaction to the images, she would have preferred to deny it, and she would have just still believed Stephen.
Has he ever mentioned to you, like, is he into any kind of, like, does he watch porn or any that you know of?
I'm sure he does, but
Does he watch it around you or?
Okay, I'm totally calling BS on this from Jenn. When asked if he watches stuff, she's like, I'm sure he does. She would know. I've been in relationships with guys who, within the first month, you know, they tell you about it as if they think you might want to sit and watch it with them or something. Anyway, let's not go down that track. She was with him, forget the first year when they supposedly were just friends, didn't live with each other or anything. She lived with him on and off for 6 years. Of course she knows. And let's be honest, given who we're talking about, I think we could be 99.999% certain that he has at some point in time asked her if she wanted to watch stuff with him.
I know some relationships, girlfriends go on guys' phones, guys go on girls' phones just to look, be nosy. Do you do any of that sort of thing, or does he do that to your phone or anything like that? Okay.
we pretty much respect each other's privacy.
So I'm leaning towards actually believing her in terms of her saying that she hasn't gone through his phone and he doesn't go through hers. The comment about respecting privacy. But I suspect that it's one of two things. Either he's the one that's established that he would like his privacy respected and to have her not looking at his phone, or she's chosen not to look at his phone because she knows what's on there and she doesn't want to see it. What does Chris say? Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's harder to lie about it if you've actually seen the proof.
What about you and phone? Do you ever go through her phone at all?
Sometimes, but not as much as I should probably.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Because you trust her.
Yeah, I've gone through her phone before though.
Okay. Anything abnormal that you would see in her phone?
That I thought, no.
Not that you thought, or
No, I'm saying
you've
like
never...
if I've never seen anything,
Gotcha.
no. But
Got
I'm
it,
saying
okay.
if you guys saw something, then I missed it.
No,
But
I'm not saying that we have.
Okay.
No.
Wow. Jenn actually sparked up a little bit there. She got a little bit defensive, didn't she? They've asked her if she's ever looked through Maddie's phone, and she's like, yes. And then she adds the disclaimer, probably not as much as I should have. Now, why would you say that? Unless you know there's things on there that you probably should have acted on. Such as a message showing these parenting coins and a message saying, we need these. Has Jenn seen that? But the thing that makes it even more of a red flag for me, not just her saying, not as much as I probably should have done, we rarely hear Jenn arc up like this. And she actually became a little bit stressed out here. Basically saying, If you found things, I must have missed them. Wow. I'm sorry, but to me, that sounds like an admission for her that she knew there were things on Maddie's phone. She knew there was communication between Maddie and Stefan that was less than appropriate. And the only way around that is to basically say, oh, yeah, sure, I did check her phone, but probably not enough, only very rarely, probably not overly efficiency. Because if you found stuff, then I might have just missed stuff. She is trying to cover her ass here. I'm just wondering, those of you who are parents out there, if you were in Jen's position and a detective said, well, do you check your kid's phone often? What would your response be? Would you take that as meaning, do you know that there is something on your child's phone that there is inappropriate and now you need to cover your ass? Or would you just see it as a simple question of, are you one of these parents that monitors what's going on with their child's phone? Generally the answer would be, oh, yeah, I am, or no, I'm not. But Jenn is really defensive here. And this is probably the biggest reaction we've heard from her throughout the entire interview thus far. She fired up. It seems like the further we get through this interview, the more guilty Jenn actually looks.
Stefan's phone is a different story.
Just going back to the comment you made about how you know that he was sexually active with someone else during your relationship, how did that come about?
Because we had broken up, and I found out about it later. But there was a girl he had been hanging out with, a coworker. This was about over a year ago. He started hanging out with a coworker, and I had suspicions that they were sleeping together, but I would ask, and he wouldn't confirm or say anything like that. But he didn't confirm until a few months later that, yeah, they in fact did sleep together, and I was just like, well, okay, good to know. I was just checking to see if I had slept with him after that, and like, do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to have sex with him after he's had sex with somebody else. So, when he told me that, I was just checking with myself to see if that had happened, and it hadn't. So.
And this got brought up on a conversation of you asking him if he was sexually active with someone during your breakup, or did you find something on his phone, or was he texting off to the side?
No, it was a conversation that we had, and he just told me.
Was it a cordial conversation, or were you guys angry, or?
No.
Oh.
I do find it kind of odd that she's so relaxed talking about these other relationships when they were broken up, because apparently he was still living with her at the time, so that's a little bit weird. But you know what I find even more weird than that? Her claiming that, she had to check with herself to know if she was having activities with him after he'd been having activities with that other woman, because that was a concern for her. Well, does she really think that she's the first person that he ever had relationships with? Because there would have been plenty of people before her. Well, plenty of girls before her, by the sounds of it. I mean, when he was 19, he was going out with a 14-year-old girl. Deb says that nothing happened because they were the girl wasn't straightening herself up when she came down from his room. But do we really believe that, given Stefan's obsessions? It's just a really, really bizarre... She just has a really weird way of looking at things.
Sorry, when was the last time you guys were sexually active?
December of not December 2023, but December 2022.
Okay.
At that point, I had decided that I wasn't interested in sex. I wasn't. My meds just really affected me, and I was just like, you know what? I think it took a while to figure out that it was my meds. I was trying to figure out if it was like my hormones or my body, like what was going on, but it was just my meds. We narrowed it down to that. So when I realized that what was happening, I just had to accept it, because it's either come off my meds or fix my sex drive. Well, come off my meds, fix my sex drive, or stay on my meds. I'm gonna stay on my meds. Like, I need to stay stable. So, yeah.
Where have you guys been staying? I know you said they kicked you out of your apartment or whatever, but while they were at your apartment, where were you guys staying?
At a hotel right off the Disney property, Home Suites by Marriott or something like that, on Western Way, off of 429.
Okay. Did so you and Stefan have been together pretty much the whole time after? Have you guys always been together, or has there been times that you stay at the hotel or you work in, then him be out by himself?
When I woke up this morning, he wasn't there, and he was gone for about an hour. But he came back and he said he had gotten some Wawa, and then he got lost because he didn't have his GPS or phone on him or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So took him a while to get back to the hotel, but he found us eventually. I wondered that. I was just like, he left the hotel and didn't have a phone on him, didn't tell me where he went. I'm like, how is he going to find his way back? I don't think he even paid attention to how I got here, because I'm the one who drove. I'm the one who knew where the hotel was. I was like, I don't know if he's going to figure it out, but he did.
Okay, probably just a quick heads up. There's a bird that's been around for years, and it seems to have returned. So you will hear it mimicking an alarm clock in the background probably while I'm talking. That's one of its many things that it likes to mimic. It's been around for 2 or 3 years, and I haven't seen it over summer, but maybe it's just cooled off enough now for it to come back. Jen really over-explained all that, didn't she? Simple case of, well, I woke up and he wasn't there, and he came back 25 minutes later and said he'd been out to get Wawa. Would have been enough. But she yaffled on for ages and went on about him not having GPS, and she's amazed that he found his way back, because she's not even sure that he paid attention when she was driving there. Here's the thing. He was in Jen's car. That was a 2-year-old car at the time, so I'm pretty certain it would have had GPS. In fact, being a Nissan, it would have had to have had GPS. And of course, as I mentioned before, I strongly suspect that he also had that iPhone mini at that point in time. Because while we were told by Chris that he gave it to him at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the thing that made me think that he must have had it earlier was him saying to the detectives, not that it was initialising, but it had started re-initialising while he was waiting in that interview room. So that made me think that maybe he had been trying to reset it and then told them it was re-initialising. So Jen going over the top to explain that he didn't have GPS, going over the top with this basic explanation of him not being there when she woke up, but he turned up later, makes me think that she's trying to hide what she knows.
But he was gone for about, I want to say, an hour.
Okay. I don't think everything else right now.
I feel like can I see that image of my daughter with the her mouth? Because I feel like unless I'm not gonna believe it until I have confirmation, and I'm always gonna have doubts unless I actually see it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't wanna leave here today and never have the opportunity again. Like I wanna.
Okay, I honestly understand now why FOIA requests are so expensive for the first people that put them in, because just trying to edit out that one word is a challenge, trust me. So I just cannot wrap my head around what this woman is saying. She's asking them to show her the image of her daughter, not Maddie, her daughter. Let's separate ourselves by one step. It's far less personal that way to call her her daughter as opposed to Maddie. But she wants them to show her a photo of Maddie with the thing in her mouth, which is what you may have missed because of my sloppy editing. You've got like a split second to edit that sound out, obviously, so it's not so easy. What mother asks that? I want to see the image of my daughter with that thing in her mouth. And then to go on and say, I'm always going to have doubts unless I see it for myself. She's essentially saying, yeah, you detectives are complete dumbasses, and I actually don't think that, even though it's your job and this is what you do for a living, I don't think you know what you're talking about, and I don't believe what you're saying. Like, this is not the response that you would expect from a parent. Most parents would just not want to see that stuff. And I don't want to leave here today and never have an opportunity to see those images, presumably. All said so calmly. I've got no words for it. This is not how a parent behaves. It sounds voyeuristic to me. I'm just going to say it how it is. Most parents would, by this point in time, have completely lost it. They would be an emotional wreck, or they would be screaming and yelling. They would be wanting to get out that door and get down the hallway to wherever this mongrel is being held, because they want to deal with him. Most parents are going to not want to see the images. I can't fathom what goes on in this woman's head, because it's not normal. Is she thinking that, well, maybe they're bluffing because I know Stephen factory reset his phone twice? I know they're bluffing because, or I think they're bluffing, because I know that Stephen went down to Northport and removed the hard drive from his computer. She's probably thinking there's no way they've got any images. They couldn't get him off couldn't get them off his phone. They couldn't get him off his hard drive. So I'm going to call your bluff. Show me these images. She certainly doesn't sound like someone who is shocked by the existence of these images. This is not the reaction of someone who had no idea that these images existed. This is the reaction, possibly, of someone who believes that the images used to exist, but have been gotten rid of. She's just not... you can tell I'm flabbergasted. Every time I hear her say this, I find myself lost for words.
No, I don't mind showing you, but they are difficult things to see from a parent. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the one image.
I'm not sure which picture they showed you earlier. I don't think we might have the same pictures. We do have different pictures, but I don't know if I have the same one that the other detective showed you.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Do you still want to look?
Yes. Am I gonna clearly see her face?
Yes.
Okay.
Am I going to clearly see her face? Said quite calmly. And when she's told yes, okay. Is this because she resents Maddie for this? And so she really has no sympathy for Maddie? Is this because she knew this was going on? Because after all, from her bedroom, she can hear everything that's going on in Maddie's fake bedroom. And they were always together. I have huge respect for these detectives. I can't imagine what it would have been going through their heads at this point in time. Detective Morris said, as a parent. So that means both these detectives are parents. They're probably trying to put themselves in her position and thinking, what is wrong with this woman? Like, it's unreal.
And prior to this, have you known her to be sexually active with any boyfriends or friends?
Wouldn't you expect a stronger reaction than just a really super quiet no? This is a child who has just turned 13. I think if I'd have asked that same question of my sister when my niece was 13, there would have been some choice words said and I probably would have been thrown out of the house. There's no sense of anger, no sense of why would you ask such a thing? It's just a really quiet no. Possibly because this is going into a territory that she really wants to avoid. She doesn't want them to realise that she knew. And honestly, I just can't see how she could not have known. There are so many things that point to her having had to have known what was going on.
That one right there is a no.
You saw it through the picture?
I could, but you can turn it around if you want.
So she could see through the picture, but then she says to him, well, you could turn it around if you want. Very matter-of-factly. Supposedly, this is the first time she's seen a full image. Where's the reaction? Where's the shock? Where's the yelling and screaming or the tears? Or even the difficulty speaking because she can't breathe? I just cannot fathom this woman. Most parents wouldn't even want to see the images. But to get enough of a glimpse of an image that it apparently confirms it for you, and then say you can turn it around if you want? Does she want them to go and blow it up onto a bigger piece of paper?
Is that? Do you recognize anybody else that may be in that photo? I know basically it's only genitalia, but is there anything else in that photo that stands out to you?
No.
Anything in the background?
Is this a picture of a picture? Is this a picture of a phone? Like, is this background
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of all the things that could be going through her head at that point in time, she wants to know if it's a picture of a picture. Did they take the picture off a phone? That's the only thing you can say when you've just been shown an image of your child with something in her mouth that should not have been in her mouth.
Let me see. Nothing I recognize in the background, no. There's not much space. Okay.
And then she pulls out the Soto sigh and says, okay. No, it's far from okay. That is the last response I would expect to hear from a parent that's just been shown an image like that. Now, you would expect maybe it's taking a while to sink in. Maybe after the okay, we get silence and then we get a reaction. That could be redeeming, right?
If you don't mind asking, who keeps calling?
Everyone. The
Or
news.
The family and everything.
My family, they're all trying to figure out if I was the news, because last they heard I was going to the news conference and that I was
okay.
gonna watch that, but that's not what happened. So they all want an update and see where I'm at and what I'm doing and what's the latest.
Yeah,
But
understandable.
Yeah, you can let them know that the reason it's taken so long is now this is now like a semi-police investigation.
yeah.
Yep, nothing at all. He wants to know who's calling. Oh, family, media. Let's just go on to this conversation, and I'm perfectly fine now, thank you. She sounds like a sociopath right now. She's not reacting the way that she should be reacting. It is so wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. I know this may not make sense to you, but amongst us it does. Sometimes when people call the police and then want to file a report, there's jurisdictional lines that we got to follow.
Yeah.
Okay. So being that she was dropped off at school, that would make it Orange counties. Okay. But now we can't definitively say she was dropped off at school. We believe she was. We got to go on. We definitely know 100% that she was at home at your house on her way to school. So that's why we're involved. Okay, does that make sense to you now? Okay.
Given what her reaction was just like, I don't understand the softly approach there. Why not just come out with, yeah, I am from the Major Crimes Unit, because we are looking at Stefan really hard now, and we don't believe that your daughter was alive when she left your apartment. I think they really should have come hard on her at this point in time. I probably shouldn't be telling them how to do their jobs. But it's not getting anywhere. She's not showing any kind of emotion. She can't even say Maddie's name. Sure, at least my daughter is better than her, but is still separating herself from Maddie. It's still distancing language. She hasn't reacted to the image that she's seen. If they think they're going to get any details out of her to help them find Maddie, they're kidding themselves.
I can't think of anything else right now for her. Anything else that we may miss that?
I know that you said that Stefan was out, right, looking for her that night. Do you remember what time he came back? Like when you woke up, was Stefan home?
Yes.
What time did you wake up?
Can I look at my phone and tell you?
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Because it was phone calls that woke me up. Let me see if I can find it. We're talking about Tuesday morning, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And while you're looking for the time, was there any specific reason on why he wanted to use your car instead of his?
Because he had just gotten a flat tire, so he's got a donut on one of the back wheels. And I told him not to drive the car because you can't drive very much on a donut, right? Like
Okay.
not fast and not far. So
Did he explain any, like, how the flat tire happened on the car, or
he was just
where
driving
he
down.
was when it?
And he was just driving down 192, and then he felt like a wobble or something weird, and then he pulled over and saw that the tire had like just shredded, just fell apart. So he pulled over into a plaza and changed the tire.
Do you know where about?
He says somewhere on 182, but he doesn't know exactly where because everything looks the same to him.
In Kissimmee?
Yeah.
So now she's just back to reciting the agreed story. She's forgotten about these images that she's just looked at a minute or so earlier. She's not dwelling on it. She's not asking them questions about it. They even gave her processing time. Do you think it was a coincidence that the detective's like, oh, I haven't really gotten any other questions right now, and there's a silence? They were waiting to see if she processed what was said or what she saw, waiting for a reaction, which didn't happen. And now she's just regurgitating the same old story. She did say one thing differently from Stefan, and that was that all the places look the same to him, which is why he doesn't know where he changed the tyre. Well, that once again shows you, if that's what the story is, that definitely proves that he's not ADHD. because you notice every minutiae, every little detail. If you pull over somewhere to change a tyre, you're going to be able to say exactly where you were, what the business was. You're probably going to be able to say what vehicle you pulled in behind. You're going to know the colour of the building. Sometimes when I listen to Jen and when I listen to Stephen, I feel like I'm in some alternate reality where people just don't react the way they're supposed to.
He doesn't know what business he may have stopped at or where. But I will tell you, Stefan also has ADHD. He's also very forgetful. It's like having my child. They're both the same. They both have ADHD. They're both very forgetful. They both have time blindness, which means they lose track of time. If they don't have a watch on them at all times, they've lost track of time. They don't know how long they've been taking. My daughter will take an hour or more long shower, not realizing she's been in the shower for very long. They're both the same in that respect. He's also on medication, which is making him super forgetful.
Every time I hear her trying to say that Maddie and Stefan are the same, makes me so cranky. There is nothing that I've heard that would make me think that Stefan has ADHD. As for Maddie, I would have liked to have known if there was a proper psychological assessment done to rule out PTSD. Or, more to the point, complex PTSD, because obviously the trauma that she was going through was ongoing for quite some period of time. But that said, the reason there is confusion between ADHD and PTSD is because a lot of the symptoms are the same. But from the way Jen's talking, she really has no understanding of ADHD whatsoever. If she does, then she's just making excuses for Stefan. And saying he's on medication that makes him forgetful, well, if she's referring to ADHD medication, which I think is what they were saying he takes, but then they also say something about stuff for anxiety. ADHD medication is like turning on a light bulb. If you've got ADHD, you know what I'm talking about. It's like suddenly the whole world just comes into focus. And suddenly you can pay attention to more things. You're far less distracted. And you're less forgetful. So none of what she's saying here adds up. She's just making excuses. Why does she need to make excuses for him? Well, if she thought he was innocent, she wouldn't need to make excuses, would she?
It's an
Is
anxiety.
this new for him, or has he always had this?
Stefan, he's always had ADHD. I
And
want
he's
to say
forgetful?
that's probably one of the reasons I broke up with him too. Was it's the ADHD part that just it's not. It's hard to manage and control, right? It's just how you are, and it's just a lot of those little things that just it was just too much for me.
Wow. Let's take Stefan out of the picture there for a moment. She's very negative about people with ADHD. Maddie supposedly had ADHD, but it's too much for her. In Jen's eyes, having ADHD makes you a lesser individual. That is essentially what she has just said here about Stephen. He's lesser than her because he has ADHD. She claimed at some point that she had ADHD. She seems to have forgotten that. And like I've said, I'm pretty certain she doesn't have ADHD either. But it is that common perception that if you have ADHD, you're a loser. That is essentially what she's saying here. You can't do anything about it. It just makes you a bad person. This makes me realise really, really sad, because it gives me the impression that Maddie's probably spent her life being blamed because she had ADHD, being put down because she had ADHD. And you know what? It is a struggle having ADHD. And yeah, sometimes there will be things that tick people off. But you learn strategies to cope day to day with your ADHD. It doesn't have to be something where people decide that you're a pariah because you forget and you talk over the top of people. That was one of the first things I had to learn when I started working with my ADHD. And I learnt pretty quickly because you read people really well when you have ADHD too. And I could tell that it was getting some of my work colleagues offside when I accidentally butted in and spoke over the top of them. I wasn't trying to be rude. It was just that I had ADHD and my brain said, you've got to say this and you've got to say it now. And by the time I processed the fact that someone else was talking, I'd already opened my mouth. But I learnt how to manage that. In terms of forgetting things or not being organised. I have what I call a launching station by my front door. I've got a whole table where I keep my car keys and my sunnies. And if I'm going somewhere and I need something in particular, then I'll put that something on the whole table in preparation, rather than try and dash out the door and remember everything that I need to take. So Jen's negativity makes me so angry because it sounds like she never tried to teach Maddie any strategies to cope with her ADHD. And it sounds like Jenn just writes people off because of ADHD.
And I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so right now,
But he doesn't remember where he got this flat tire.
And he changed it himself, he said?
yes.
Okay.
And he said he hurt himself while doing it. I think his thumb got caught in between the thing that cranks the car up
jack.
and like the frame.
Mhm.
Something twisted and fell on his finger, and he said he yanked out his finger really fast
Okay.
and hurt himself.
Alright, so he used your car because of the flat tire. Okay. And then, did you find the time?
Oh, sorry. up around 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday.
And he was home.
Yes.
So let me get this straight. You supposedly went to bed at 11 o'clock on Sunday night and you slept till 9 o'clock Monday morning. So you couldn't take Maddie to school yourself because you needed your sleep. Monday night, well, you weren't in bed before midnight because there were officers there at midnight. So you got to bed sometime after 12:15. And you managed to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So basically, the Monday morning, when she needed to be up early enough for Maddie to get to school, she couldn't do it. And supposedly had to get Stephen to do it, even though she was at an appointment pretty much in the same location 15 minutes later, or 15 minutes after the school was meant to start. The following day, when she didn't have to be up at a specific time, she managed to get up at 8 o'clock. Having had probably 7.5 hours sleep. Apparently it didn't cause a problem for her. She's not complaining about being tired. And in fact, the day that they're doing this interview, she didn't get to bed till after 2 o'clock, after they checked into the hotel. She got up at 9 o'clock to take the dog out for a walk. So she had 7 hours sleep then. Does she sound like she's having a problem right now? No. She's coping quite well with this interview. She's answering the questions quite easily. She's speaking quite fluently. She's not yawning. She's not apologising for being tired or for being out of it because of her meds. This is the most narcissistic person I've ever encountered. This BS story about the Sunday night and she needed her sleep, so she sent Maddie upstairs with Stephen and she got him to take Maddie to school in the morning. Well, now she's not complaining about her lack of sleep. She managed to get up at 8 o'clock on the Tuesday morning. Maybe had she thought of getting up 8 o'clock Monday morning, she could have driven Maddie to school. But wait, oh no, she couldn't, because Maddie wasn't around anymore by 8 o'clock. Convenient, isn't it? That of those 3 nights, the one night when she desperately needed her sleep, and she desperately needed to sleep in, happens to be the night when she's had the most sleep, and that's the night when everything went wrong. Makes her look really guilty in my eyes.
Was he awake, sleeping, or what was he doing?
Asleep.
Okay. And then do you know if at any point during any of this, like if he's showered, he's changed?
No.
Not that you have physically seen?
No, I haven't seen him shower or change.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's a contradiction too, because now I can't remember which interview it was, but they asked her the same question, and she mentioned that there was that extra towel in the bathroom, which would indicate that apparently he did shower, and apparently she knows that he did.
Do you recognize that phone number?
No. Oh, sorry, we're almost done.
No worries.
I think he showered. I'm not sure if he showered. I don't think he showered Sunday night. I think it must have been Monday morning sometime.
Monday morning?
Yeah, because there is a towel in my bathroom that's not ours, not mine, or that's hanging there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I recall him telling me he was going to take a shower, but I just don't remember when exactly.
Bingo, she finally got there. It's interesting, though, that her first response was to say that she didn't know. And then they've given her a bit of processing time. And she's come back and said, actually, yeah, there was a towel in the bathroom. So he did shower at some point in time.
Okay, does anybody else use this bathroom?
Just me and Stefan.
You said you had 2 roommates.
Yeah.
What are their names?
Do you want the last name as well?
Please.
Okay. Last name.
Do you happen to know her phone number?
Yeah. She only speaks Spanish though, so if somebody in Spanish
Okay.
is gonna have to call her.
Sure, we can find somebody who speaks Spanish.
I speak Espanol.
And who's the other one? Okay. How long have you guys been roommates with each other?
Almost 3 years. With almost 2.
So, almost 3 years and almost 2 years. That's still quite a lot of time to be sharing a house with someone. So it does make me question if there's things that weren't said by the flatmates. I think the main issue there was the language. A few people who speak Spanish have said that the translator wasn't all that great. But Natalie, I am still surprised by her interview because she's known Jenn since before she moved in. She's Stephanie's best friend. But she's lived with Jenn for 3 years. And yet she seemed to give less information than Angelica. And I can't help wondering if it's loyalty to her best friend Stephanie, that she doesn't want to dob in her best friend's sister. Because I'm sure she must know way more than what she said in her interviews.
So I'm not sure if you guys went to the house at all.
You were there, but not outside.
Okay, so these bedrooms are numbered. So do you know which room is
His room is number 3.
number 3?
And room is number 2.
Okay. Like if you actually physically are there, each door has a number.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And do you guys rent to a separate landlord? Like, does someone own that specific unit?
No, my dad.
Okay. So your dad owns it and then he rents out rooms, it looks like?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you meet them? Who are they in relation to you?
I've known her since my sister was in middle school. They were middle school best friends. So we've known her, I would say, more than half her life now, 20 plus years. Met her on Facebook Marketplace almost 3 years ago when she rented.
Looking for a place to
Yeah,
live.
looking for a place, yeah.
How old is
31, 32.
Okay, so they're both a little older.
Yeah. And
Whoa, 31 is not
Oh,
old,
36.
okay?
Sorry.
I had to have a little chuckle at that. 31 really, really is not old. That is for sure.
And her is 33, I think.
Okay.
Since you mentioned Facebook Marketplace, have any social media?
She's got a Instagram.
Okay. Do you happen to know her Instagram name?
Yeah.
What is it? Or if you can pull up her page,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Do you mind if I take a picture of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
She left out quite a few things there, didn't she? We know that Maddie chatted through people through Roblox, and I wonder if Jenn actually knew about Maddie's little YouTube account that she had. Possibly not, because it seems like the only person we've heard mention of it from is her best friend, and I could see that being the sort of thing that a teenager probably wouldn't tell their parents about, just in case they got told, yeah, no, you probably shouldn't be doing that.
What about Stefan? Does he have social media?
I'm not sure I don't think he's got, does he? Yes, so he's got Facebook, he's got an Instagram, and he's got a Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly Discord as well, which is like a chat
Mm-hmm.
app.
Do you have his Instagram that you can show me?
Now, I'm curious. I wonder if Jenn Soto has a Reddit account. Totally random thought. So she's basically given them his clean accounts, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, and I think Discord. I wonder if she knew about Telegram and any other accounts that he may have had. I can't help thinking that she probably did.
And what about his Facebook?
What's happened to stuff? Actually, can you guys update me on what's happening with Stefan at this point?
So we're like he said, we're gonna get all the same information that Orange County got from you. So that right now we're kind of starting at the bottom and working our way up.
We're gonna go talk to him now.
Yep.
Oh, after me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This woman is absolutely unreal. She's what, 2 hours into an interview? They've showed her images at her request of Maddie, images that most parents wouldn't want to see. They've told her what was going on with Maddie. And at this point in time, Maddie's still missing. Supposedly, she has no idea where Maddie is. She has no idea if Maddie's alive still. And she's just had time to sit and think, do a bit of processing. And what question did she come out with? What's happening with Stefan? You're kidding me, right? Your daughter is missing, and you're not asking about where are things at with the search for Maddie? Have you had any more tips? Where are you looking? What theories do you have? Have you found any more camera footage? The questions should be endless. But she's forgotten about Maddie. She wants to know what's happening with Stefan. That says it all, doesn't it?
So just so we know a little bit more about it, I know you mentioned something about gaming, or is that like one of his things to do? Gaming? What is he into?
He's into.
Like, what does he do on a daily basis? Obviously, he lives in North Florida. What's
Okay.
he into?
So, one thing. Another thing Stefan's got, mental health wise, is insomnia. He doesn't sleep well. And he's got also sleep apnea. So when he sleeps, he stops breathing and doesn't get good rest. His brain is always telling him to wake up and breathe. So he's always constantly being woken up. He doesn't get good sleep. Because of this, he spends the majority of his day sleeping, just trying to get some rest. But it's a stupid cycle with sleep apnea.
It is so disturbing that she has such detailed knowledge of his sleep issues, and yet she still chose to send her daughter upstairs to sleep with him, knowing that he wouldn't be sleeping. And I just have to comment here. One of the medications that they listed that he had was clonidine, which is actually something that helps you sleep. So he should have, in fact, were he not on God knows what else, the clonidine should have been adequate for him to take some before bedtime and actually get a decent night's sleep. So clearly he was on other things that weren't allowing him to sleep. And amongst all that, she was more than happy to send Maddie upstairs with him. What did she think that he would be doing in the room while Maddie was asleep? Because I think most parents would find that incredibly disturbing.
He'll spend the majority of his day sleeping. When he does wake up, he'll play a game called World of Warcraft, which is a video game. Or he'll meet up with his friends and play tabletop gamings, like battle, like they battle each other with little
Is it
toys.
cards or
Not toys, they're little miniature figures.
okay?
It's called Warhammer 40K. It's just a tabletop tournament game. Like you're a weird race, you're a weird race of creature, and we're going to war with each other.
Okay.
So they're just trying to kill each other.
Battle each other or
yeah.
something. Okay.
That's pretty much what he's into. Also, he collects Tamagotchis and Digimons. I don't know if you guys remember Tamagotchis from back in the day,
Mhm.
little creatures we
Nothing
used
you
to
gotta
take
keep
care of.
alive.
Yeah, he has a bunch of those. I want to say that's right now. Those are his current hobbies.
Now, I do find it odd, a grown man buying Tamagotchi. And I know that apparently some of the ones that he was buying were quite expensive, yada yada yada. He was buying them from Japan, so they were exclusives and everything like that. I could understand if you were buying them from a Japanese market and then selling them on to make money. But it sounds like he was just hoarding them. Sounds like he was buying all these things that were worth a bit of money, but not ever getting rid of them. Which, it's not really the way you do it. Sitting there and sitting on them going, well, one day they'll be worth a lot of money and then I'll sell them. Meanwhile, you've spent thousands and thousands of dollars that you have no access to because they're tied up in toys in the hope that those toys might become worth something down the track. But now here's the thing. Sure, my niece spends a lot of time gaming online. I know someone who paints those figurines and I think they're for Dungeons and Dragons or something. They play, but that's not their entire life. That's just a hobby that they do in their spare time. Both those people work, do worthwhile things with their life. Whereas basically what Jen's described here is someone who's just not a worthwhile member of society. What does he do to contribute to society? Absolutely nothing.
And since you've known him for over 7 years, what are his triggers? Like, are there certain things that he gets upset about easily if you do or say, or I mean,
I know I can be a nag sometimes, and if I keep nagging, he'll get a little irritated, but I can't say I know what. I don't think he's got triggers.
Well, that one took a bit of time to answer, didn't it? You get this really, really long sigh and then a really long pause. And then she's like, I know I'm a bit of a nag. Yeah, you are a bit of a nag, Jen. I'd imagine that you would trigger a lot of people. She's effectively saying that he's triggered by her. But then she steers away from it because she realises she doesn't want to be talking about his triggers. And now she's like, I don't think he's really got any triggers. The only reason that makes me think that she needs to steer away from his triggers is that he may have been triggered on that Sunday night. And I keep going back and forth. Part of me thinks, based on a lot of the things he's said, that he was somehow triggered. Something happened between him and Maddie, and he lost it. But then another part of me, based also on things he's said and based on interviews, suspects that she may have been OD'd. So it's really confusing. And we know that the official cause of death is listed as strangulation. But of course the question there is, was it because he was triggered and angry? Or was it part of his routine, so to speak? But she's definitely not comfortable with discussing Stefan's triggers.
have you ever experienced him outlash, like, to the extreme on anybody? You, any of his family? Or does he ever hit you or discipline at all?
Oh no, never. I'll say he does have like a little bit of a temper, but it's not anything I've ever been afraid of or been like, oh my god, he's gonna hit me, or oh my god, he's about to abuse my child. Never like that.
This from a woman who claims that she has PTSD. And she's like, he's got a bit of a temper, but essentially she's not worried by it. She doesn't think anything's going to come of it. And I don't know if it's in this interview or another one when she actually mentions that, well, he has actually snapped at his parents before. I think she even implies that he's perhaps been violent around them, whether that means breaking things or actually throwing things or what. But it just seems, again, she's downplaying something here, I honestly believe.
Have you guys had any disagreements recently?
No.
Have you guys had any disagreements recently? And then very quietly she says no. And then she has to double down on it and say no again. The fact that she repeats herself and the fact that she's gone down to that really teeny tiny quiet voice suggests to me that there was possibly some sort of argument that occurred between her and Stefan as well. Maybe it was over what occurred on the Sunday night, Monday morning. I definitely don't think she's being honest with the detectives here because of how quietly she said it and because she repeated herself. It's like, I just have to emphasise this. No, 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 no. Okay, I know she only said it twice, but you know what I'm trying to get at.
Okay. Alright. I think we're gonna go talk to Stefan a little bit to see if he can maybe give a little bit more insight of what happened that day after he dropped her off.
Is he being placed under arrest because of those pictures?
Yeah, we haven't made that determination yet, but
You being mom, do you want to press charges? Since she's a juvenile?
No fucking idea. I didn't think it was in my power. I thought you guys just automatically did it.
That has got to be one of the most bizarre interactions that we've heard throughout this entire case. Is he being placed under arrest? She asks, because of the images. Now, the detective started saying yes, and then he caught himself. I think he realised this is an opportunity to really gauge what is going on with this woman. And he goes, we haven't made that determination yet. Do you want to press charges? Now, any normal parent, given that question, would be, why are you asking me this? Of course I do. He's done this to my child. I want to kill him. And then I want you to press charges. And then if he's still standing, I want to go and kill him again. But she's got no idea. Oh, I've got no idea. I didn't think it was in my power. Now, just to offer some clarification here, there's two things that are going on here. He would have still been charged with the CSAM stuff, possession of that stuff. But I believe what they're referring to is if she wanted him charged for grapes and other things, other actions. It's like when you report someone for grape, the person reporting it is initiating the action. And if they turn around and say, I don't want to proceed with it, then the matter gets dropped. So they're basically asking her if she wants him to be charged for grape. And she doesn't know. She's got no idea. Because Stefan is more important to her than her daughter, clearly. I don't know how these detectives managed this case, honestly. The pair of them are despicable human beings.
What do you think should happen to him for these pictures?
It's crazy. Like, I saw the pictures, but I'm still in denial because, like, there's a piece there,
Mm-hmm.
but is Is he visual? Does he show up in any of the pictures? Is there? I mean, I don't know who's
I haven't seen all of the pictures, so I can't answer that truthfully.
because I can't.
Whether it's his or not, are you comfortable with him having content of someone else's in your daughter's mouth on his phone?
It really is like being in some bizarre alternate reality, isn't it? She's so calm about it all. She demanded to be shown an image, saying that she couldn't believe it unless she was shown the image. And now she's still denying it and questioning, well, could it be someone else? Have you actually got images that show him? Can you prove it was him, essentially, she's saying. And they're like, well, regardless, are you okay with him having images of that, of anybody's doohickey in your daughter's mouth? Like, it's just such a bizarre conversation to be listening to. This is not a normal conversation with a parent. The woman, what can you say? This is not someone in denial. This is someone who wants to know if they've got proof that it's Stephen. If those images can be linked directly to him because they can see his face. Well, I've got bad news for you, Jen. There were other ways they identified him. So yes, they did manage to identify him. But I just can't fathom. And to say, well, how do you know it's not someone else? Means that she's basically accepting that that was happening to her daughter. And she's fine with that. She just doesn't want to believe that it was Stephen. So again, the focus here is not on Maddie. The focus is on Stephen.
That makes sense.
Years old.
Absolutely not. No.
Have you and your daughter, or you ever talked about her being sexually active with anybody?
I've never even. Me assuming she had never been sexually active, I hadn't brought it up.
Has she ever had boyfriends in the past, or?
No, she's not allowed to date.
I can believe that Jen never brought it up based on her reaction to the images, because she wouldn't have wanted to hear any answers from Maddie. It's not a topic that she would have wanted to discuss, because had she heard the answers she didn't want to hear, she would have wanted to ignore them. It's much easier to ignore something if you aren't told about it directly. It can be right under your nose, but you can still plead ignorance, unless of course it's been explicitly spoken about. So yes, I believe that she probably never spoke to Maddie about that sort of thing.
How does that make her feel? I know some teenagers want to have a boyfriend. And
Yeah, I think she was okay with it. She never complained and said, "Oh, mom, I really want to date this person, whatever." For a little while, she's like, "Mom, I have a crush on someone. Can they be my girlfriend or can they be my boyfriend?" And I don't remember if it was a boy or girl. And I said, "I think you're a little too young for that. Let's just wait till you're older. Wait till you're older." And she was like, okay with that.
Now, here's a tricky thing. Jen's saying, okay, Maddie wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend, and Maddie asked her at one point in time, could this person be my boyfriend? Well, we've heard from Maddie's friends that Maddie did have a few little boyfriends along the way. One young man who got angry and broke another boy's shoulder or elbow or something like that and got expelled from the school. I'm guessing Maddie might not have told Jenn about those things. But there should have been a crashing realisation here for Jenn when she's being asked about Maddie and boyfriends. There should have been this crashing realisation that in Maddie's mind, it's possible that she may have seen Stephen as just that. Because he's probably groomed her for 6-7 years. We hear accounts of her showing affection towards him, which apparently Jenn never saw. It just seems so ironic. But Jenn is not noticing the reality here. She should be losing the plot about now. These questions are basically still pointing towards the things that Stephen was doing. The detectives are trying to get some sort of emotional reaction out of Jenn. They're probably just as gobsmacked as what we are. And she's just going along as if it's just, everything's just normal.
Yeah, I know she recently had a crush on a boy, maybe, but
Has she ever had boys at the house?
no.
Have you ever had anybody at your house, any male friends at your house?
Not in years.
What about your roommates?
My roommate has a son who's 11 or 12,
Mm-hmm.
but he's darker skin complexion, but I don't think that would be his penis.
Seriously, you're gonna go there with a 12-year-old autistic boy? Like, the fact that she can consider that as a possibility over what the actual reality is.
Do your roommates have boyfriends?
Not that I know of, I don't think they do.
Would there be any reason for her to be alone with, if they have boyfriends, with any other male?
With any other male?
No.
No.
And checkmate. She's tried to get around it, and they've basically cornered her in. The only answer that she can give there is, no, Maddie's never been alone with any other male. The only other male that she could possibly suggest would be her own father. Thankfully, she's not enough of a lowlife to do that.
So what do you think should happen to Stefan?
I'm afraid to say press charges, but what else? There's a side of me that wants to say he's innocent, that this isn't happen, but who else would that be? She's not left alone with anyone else.
So essentially, if she could pin it on someone else, she would, by the sounds of it. And she's like, she's not left alone with anyone else. Well, now that's interesting, Jenn, because you claimed that You were always around. And now she was left alone with him. Clearly, quite frequently. But let's go back a step. I'm afraid to say press charges. What parent ever in the history of mankind has ever said that in a case like this? What would be the motivation to not want to press charges? Other than putting your low-life ex-boyfriend ahead of your own child. She doesn't want to be the one responsible for him going to jail. She wants to still have him around. Probably it's convenient to have him around. Based on the body cam footage from the night after they reported Maddie missing, I'm guessing it's beneficial to her to have him around because he brings the goods.
And why would they be on his phone?
Yeah, why would they be on his phone exactly?
This poor detective is trying everything in his power to try and get through her thick skull, to try and get a reaction from her. And still nothing. Why would they be on his phone? She's like, oh, well, why would they be on his phone? Exactly. Still no rage. No distress whatsoever of any kind.
I don't know what to do.
Okay, we can revisit that. Because after we're done talking to him, I'll probably come back and talk to you for a little bit, just to give you an update and stuff like that, okay?
Can I make one decision now and change my mind later? If I decide not to press charges now, could I change my mind and press charges later?
She is unbelievable. She says in this really, really quiet voice, I don't know what to do. Well, if you had just even a little bit of compassion for your child, you would know exactly what to do. But then she sounds almost chipper. Oh, can I make one decision now and change my mind later? If I decide not to press charges now, can I change my mind later? She sounds almost relieved that, well, I'm not going to press charges. Yep, I feel relieved now because I've made that decision. I just wonder if anything goes on in that woman's head.
It's a lot to digest. Okay, so I don't want to make you answer that right now, but when we come back, we'll talk more about it. Okay, when I come back.
Let's take some time to process everything.
Because you're going through a lot right now. But right now, in my eyes, it sounds bad, but almost secondary because we want to find out first. Then worry about this afterwards. She's our main focus.
That's where I'm at. I know that the sexual acts happened, but I'm not convinced that he didn't take her to school. I'm not convinced that he's the reason she's gone. Because if this had been going on for so long, what's the motive? Why Monday? Why that day? Why the day after her, when we were supposed to spend the entire week together and have such a great time? Like, we had plans. Like, we knew we were just gonna be together that week and we were gonna have a good time. So I just can't think, like, why?
When you say what's the motive, what are you assuming?
That she was taken. Not that anyone that I know has done something to her, because I feel like nobody I know would do something to her, would hurt her, would murder her, anything like that.
I honestly just can't with this woman. It's all there in front of her, and yet she continues to deny it. This is not normal, rational behaviour. She wants them to prove to her that he is responsible for Maddie being gone. She probably thinks they've got no evidence. She thinks that they're fooled by the church footage, perhaps? Or maybe she just thinks that the story that her and Stephen concocted is just so believable that they must surely believe it. And the way she speaks to them, punctuating every syllable. I don't think that. Of course you think it. You're just trying to convince the detectives that it's not possible. You just don't know how much evidence they've got against this guy. They've got a lot of evidence there, Jen. And you continuing to stand up for him, continuing to deny all of this, makes you look complicit. I don't understand how she could be speaking this way unless she actually knows full well the entire story. It just does not, it doesn't ring true with me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like every step of the way, she's challenging the detectives to show her what evidence they've got. I mean, even going back to, well, if you go and check the security footage at the vape store, then you'll see he's telling the truth. He did go to the vape store, which means that he must have told the truth about everything else to do with that day as well. Because that seems to be the logic that's going on in her head.
I feel like, shoot. I just wonder if we're, like, I know the sexual acts happened, but I wonder if that's just completely separate to her actually going missing and. I just don't know. I don't know what to think.
You don't think Stefan has anything to do with her going missing?
I don't feel like he would. Why?
That was a really telling interaction. The detective specifically asks her, "You don't think Stefan has anything to do with her going missing?" And suddenly we get the little Jen voice. I don't think that he would. Because she doesn't want to admit that. We know that when she goes really quiet like that, she's either lying or she's cornered and she has to answer, but she doesn't want to answer. In this instance, I'm going to say she's lying. But what does she do straight after that? Straight out challenges the detective. She wants to know what he knows. She asks him why. She wants to know what it is that they've got on Stefan before she commits to basically saying, yeah, he's responsible. Just like the SA stuff, she's going to defend Stefan to her last breath until they can show her evidence that she cannot dispute.
I'm just asking.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, what would be the reason? Where would he take her? There's nowhere I can think that he could take her, that I hadn't heard of or known about, or would be familiar with, because if not, I would tell you, okay, she could be here, she could be here, she could be here. There's nowhere I can think of.
So her logic is because she supposedly can't think of anywhere where he would take Maddie, then he must be innocent. Now, this is an interesting bit of information that she's offered up on her own. She's a step ahead of them saying they think he's responsible. Now she's basically saying, I've got no idea where he would take her. And that if she did, she would tell them. Well, that part of the conversation wasn't brought up at that point in time. That's an interesting sidestep from Jenn. She's gone from, I don't believe he's responsible, because I don't know of any places that he would take her. If I did, I would tell you. Right there, for starters, by saying if I knew where he would take her, I would tell you, she's admitting that she does believe that he's responsible, or that she knows he's responsible. But she's offering up information that wasn't asked for. They haven't, at this point in time, said, where do you think he's taken her? But she's straight out jumped from, it's not him, he didn't do it, to, if I knew where he took her, I would tell you. That really makes me think that she definitely knew at least the area where he took Maddie. And it takes me back to previous conversations where I've said that it is one heck of a coincidence that basically where he got that tyre blowout, or the flat tyre, was less than a mile from her friend's place and on a direct route to the location where Jenn herself used to go hiking with Maddie quite frequently. A location with lakes and woods and gators. And these are all things that Jenn actually brings up in a later interview. If you haven't seen it, I did a video where I basically commented that I thought Jenn was psychic. And before you comment, I did that video first. It was actually because of my video that someone else decided to do a video along the same lines. Sorry, a little bit of a snark there, because it's something that happens quite frequently, and when you're a smaller creator, it seems like people don't really need to give you credit. But going back to this, definitely her saying, if I knew I would tell you, without prompting, that's a huge red flag.
Who does he know that lives in St. Cloud? You know where St. Cloud is.
I do know where St. Cloud is. Does he know anyone in St. Cloud?
Yeah. Him or you?
I know people in St. Cloud.
Where? Where do they live?
I haven't seen him in a long while though. But one person lives close to Harmony.
Okay.
So driving all the way down St. Cloud, passing St. Cloud a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
One person lives in St. Cloud, like off of Old Canoe Creek Road.
Okay.
I've mentioned this before, but note how she is far, far more specific in the details of the other friend, the one that lives off Old Canoe Road, whereas the other one is just way, way deep into, out towards Harmony, out that way somewhere. Let's not talk about that one because, you know, she's only less than a mile from where you're going to find Maddie.
anyone he knows, I can't think of anyone that he would know.
Has
I know-
Stefan ever went with you to visit any of your friends in St. Cloud?
No,
So you're not sure, does he know anybody in St. Cloud?
I'm not sure if he knows anyone in St. Cloud. I know the girl he dated or was sleeping with. I guess that's technically Kissimmee off of Michigan. That's technically Kissimmee. So no, it's not St. Cloud.
Let me ask you this. Now I'm gonna get a little bit more in depth. Why would his car be in St. Cloud Monday?
I know he was going to a bunch of gaming stores, video game stores. Maybe not video game stores, but like board game store, like where he can buy little miniatures and stuff. He also plays a card game. Also, I think he was looking for cards that day. A card game called Lorcana.
Oops, she got herself a little bit tangled up there. She forgot what the official story was. So she's gone from all these different things to finally, oh, that's right, it was this Lorcana card game thing. She clearly forgot what the alibi actually was.
I know he headed up, and I think he told me the shops were off of 192 somewhere. I'm not sure how far they were. I don't know if they were in St. Cloud, but
She clearly knew where those shops were because in the March 1st interview, the video one, she basically says to the guys, I gave you the list of stores that he went to. This is a woman who has lived in the area pretty much all her life. So the fact that she actually was able to make a list of the stores that he supposedly went to means that she is familiar with the stores. Otherwise, she would have forgotten the names of them before she had time to write them out, right? So to say that she doesn't know where they are, I find that slightly unbelievable. I would imagine that she knew that those stores weren't in St. Cloud. But, you know, she's going with the off 192 because she knows that they know that that's where he was at one point in time, and she knows the whole flat tire story involves 192.
I know he headed in that direction Monday while I was at the doctor's appointment. Or no, just kidding. After.
Okay. When's the last time you've been in your car in St. Cloud?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you right now.
While you look for that, did anybody else drive your car while you guys were looking for?
Wow. When was the last time you drove your car in St. Cloud? She's like, me? How dare you accuse me? Basically, she doesn't know at this point in time, supposedly, that on that Monday night he drove out to St. Cloud in her car. All she knows, supposedly, is that he drove around for a bit, somewhere up and down 192 looking for Maddie on that Monday night. As far as she knows, that's the only time he's driven her car. So why is she suddenly panicking? Because that's what it sounds like. That is the biggest reaction we've had from Jenn for quite some time over the thought of that they might think it was her driving her car in St. Cloud, even though they've actually not made any mention of having seen her car in St. Cloud at any point in time.
Other than Stefan?
No. The last time I was in St. Cloud was February 7th. I had a doctor's appointment over there.
Okay. who would have been driving your car between Monday and now, other than you?
Stefan.
Okay. 3 o'clock in the morning.
If he says he was out driving around, trying to think of places to look for her, maybe.
You didn't go with him to look?
No.
Why?
I had to stay home and take my meds and go to sleep.
She's got no issue with the fact that he was out at like 3 a.m. driving around in her car. But the crazy thing about it all is that when asked if she went with him, like supposedly he was out searching for her daughter. What was her priority? Taking her meds and going to sleep. That was far more important to her than searching for her daughter.
Okay. All right. So just to be clear, your roommates or nobody else has access to your car other than him? Nobody has a key to your car other than him or you?
The only key they would have access to would be the spare that I keep on a hook by my bedroom door, and anyone can grab that. Would I think my roommates would go into my room and take it? No. But I think the only person that would have would be Stefan.
She knows full well that her flatmates are not going to step inside her bedroom door and get her car key, her spare car key, and take her car. But, you know, obviously for a moment she's considering that as a possibility. She's so determined to stand up for Stefan that she has this moment of entertaining the idea of maybe dumping one of her flatmates in it. And then, of course, she realises how absurd it would sound for her flatmate to get up in the middle of the night, go into her bedroom, collect the key for her car that's hang up by the door, and take the car out and drive around at 3 o'clock in the morning. Especially given that her flatmates both have their own vehicles.
All right, anything else from you guys?
No, stop for now.
Okay. Thank you so much. Once again, I apologize that you have to give the story again, but like I said, now I have to play catch up.
Am I allowed to contact anyone right now or no?
Who do you want to contact?
My sister, my mom keeps calling me, but I'm not really sure what to say at this point.
I mean, you can tell. I can't tell you what to say or what not to say. I will say that we are now taking over the investigation.
Because
So-
it's PD, right?
Yes, ma'am. And I'll give you my card.
Is there a case number or anything I need to?
Not yet, I don't think so. We have theirs,
Yeah.
but I don't have ours yet. But just because this is an open investigation, I would highly suggest not to share any information outside of this room. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. And I'll be back in a little bit. Okay?
So, based on events, we know that the question of can I contact anyone is basically her going, is it okay if I now go and try and get a lawyer for Stefan? Because it was after this interview that she contacted Chris and said, you need to get Stefan a lawyer. And then she contacted her ex-husband and said, can you help me get a lawyer for Stefan? Well, that's so concerning. So that finally brings us to the end of this interview. Now, I'm thinking of skipping past the interviews from March 1st. Maybe I don't think I've ever gone right through the video interview with Jenn. So I don't know. Let me know if you want me to look at that one. But based on now the jail calls and all these phone calls or all these interviews that we've listened to, I definitely want to go back over the derivative immunity interview. See what is said and what's not said. But I am more than happy to go through the video interview. I don't think I need to go through the other recorded interview from March 1st, because I think this particular one that we've just looked at is the most crucial one. And I don't think there's a lot more that was said in the March 1st interview. It's just Jenn changing her story around a little bit. Pretty much that's all it is. Whereas the video interview is when they really start to crack the whip with her and the cracks start to show. So could be an interesting one. Let me know what you think. There's also plenty of other things that I want to look at relating to this case that aren't just a direct reaction to interviews. But I sort of feel like we're on a roll here and I might as well keep going and at the very least go through the derivative immunity. But definitely let me know. Do you want both or do you just want the derivative immunity? So on that note, thanks for sticking with me for 4 very long videos for one interview. I know I do yabber on a bit, but I guess that's just me, hey? So thanks for listening. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. Also, please hit the like button and please leave some comments. I love reading all your comments. I know that ever since I've had the pup come into my life, I don't always catch up with comments as quickly as I used to. Sometimes I'm busy having my fingers chewed off. But I do my best to catch up. And I do read comments. And I do aim to respond to everyone's comments. Sometimes it just takes a while. So on that note, thanks for listening and I will catch you in the next one.